You wrote down your goals this morning. You set an alarm. You had every intention of tackling that project. Instead, you are here, staring at a screen, completely motionless. You probably aren't even enjoying the content you're consuming. There is a very specific tension in this state, a heavy mix of guilt and physical exhaustion, paired with an overwhelming inability to put the device down. We are quick to label this paralysis as a lack of willpower. We call it laziness. We treat it as moral failure or a flaw in our personality. The explanation for this paralysis lies within the brain's internal reward system. The feedback loop designed to drive us toward achievement is currently being manipulated by external inputs. Escaping this cycle of guilt requires shifting the focus away from a perceived character flaw and toward the specific way the brain's architecture adapts to modern stimuli. This circuit shows the mechanic of drive. The glowing dopamine molecule was engineered by evolution to teach your brain to repeat behaviors. Notice the split. Scrolling triggers a short, immediate loop. Meaningful work requires a long, complex loop to reach that same dopamine release. When forced to choose between the two, your biological system will always optimize for the most immediate, effortless path to a reward. That natural bias worked perfectly well for thousands of years. Then we introduced a modern pathogen, smartphones, and what researchers call supernormal stimuli. This chart compares your dopamine responses. Normal tasks produce low, stable outputs. Digital platforms deliver rewards so intensely concentrated, they produce a massive, off-the-chart spike. To protect itself from that intense stimulation, your brain's baseline dopamine level gradually drops lower and lower. With your baseline crashed, regular tasks simply cannot clear the new reward threshold. Your ambition disappears because real life no longer registers as valuable to your brain. The brain is a resource optimizer. If a specific neural circuit, like the one used for sustained effort, is consistently ignored in favor of easier paths, the brain stops maintaining it to save energy. This physical reduction process is known to neuroscientists as synaptic pruning. Because you continually choose the low-effort option, your brain assumes the prefrontal cortex connections tied to discipline are unnecessary. It physically trims them away to save energy. At the same time, the neural pathways connected to passive entertainment and scrolling are constantly activated. They thicken and reinforce, becoming neurological superhighways that the brain prefers to use. This creates a physical imbalance. Your brain now biologically expects an instant, zero-effort reward the moment you sit down to do anything. When you try to work and that immediate hit doesn't arrive, you feel intense restlessness and irritability. This is the brain's physiological reaction to a sudden drop in its expected reward levels, a state of withdrawal. This cycle physically rewires the brain to punish effort. It steadily erodes your capacity to pursue your goals, and eventually alters how you perceive your own identity. Reversing this state requires more than willpower. To recover, you must initiate a process of neurological recalibration to rebuild those neglected effort pathways. The first treatment step is the 2-minute rule. By forcing yourself to begin a hard task for just 120 seconds, you spark a small dose of dopamine in the prefrontal cortex. That tiny hit is enough to build initial momentum. Second, you must practice dopamine fasting. Physically remove your phone and eliminate easy distractions from your environment before you start. You have to remove the cheap competition for your brain's attention. Third, front-load your high-effort tasks. Your prefrontal cortex has the most energy early in the morning. Use those hours to tackle the hardest work before your discipline reserves deplete. This daily timeline illustrates the final step. High-effort tasks are clustered in the morning, followed by a dedicated, low-effort rest block strictly boxed off at the end of the day. Scheduling your scrolling time teaches the brain that rewards follow effort, which helps stabilize the dopamine system. The laziness trap is a biological reaction to a modern environment. By changing your daily inputs, you force the brain to adapt once again. You rebuild the pathways of discipline and restore your capacity to act.